Hi, I'm Sophie Hannah.
Hi, I'm Anissa, and welcome to episode 32 of Ethnically Speaking, the show where we discuss everything and anything affecting the UK's highly melanated communities, discussing from pop culture to current affairs and everything in between. As you know, we are on the hunt for some fresh faces to join us right here each and every week. So if you think you have what it takes, be sure to click the link in the description below for details on how to apply. The deadline is the 31st of January. We're mixing it up again this week as we are joined by our very first male guest, Lusimba Pig. Now, Lusimba is the co-founder of the United Melanin Group and is also an executive producer of this show. So welcome, Lusimba.
Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so for those who are watching and listening who might not be as familiar with you, could you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a creative and a foodie who has a passion for bringing people together around food, and I'm also an aspiring ice cream maker.
Very exciting. I'm excited for the ice cream, and I'm also excited to hear your thoughts on today's topics. We're still keeping it 100 this week as we are talking all about misleading Instagram influencers, spending cash money on your partner, educating children from highly melanated communities, and out-earning your partner. So Sophie, what you got for me first?
So I'm talking about social media influencer Renee Donaldson, who had to apologise to her 159,000 followers for promoting Clinic Hub, which is a company that arranges plastic surgery in Turkey, because she failed to mention that she was getting free procedures in exchange for promoting their services. Now, Renee has severed ties with the company because her own Brazilian butt lift surgery was botched, but a BBC investigation found out that many highly melanated women underwent surgery with the clinic because of the positive reviews that they saw from Black influencers like Renee, yet they too have been left with life-changing medical issues. I want to ask you guys, whose responsibility is it to ensure the quality and the safety of products and services that are promoted by influencers? Is it the influencer, the follower, or the social media platform?
You see, this is an interesting one because I kind of feel like it's everybody's responsibility. Like, everybody has a piece in this puzzle, if that makes any sense. Because I just think as a consumer or an influencer, or even on social media, like, we all have to do a bit of our own due diligence to a certain extent. But for me, I guess if you had to ask me who the onus mostly kind of sits with, it would be for me, one, actually the company that is offering this product, to make sure that they're actually offering safe products and services that we can actually use. And then secondly, the influencer as well, because they're the direct advertiser for us, right? So I guess as a consumer, you would think that this person has like tested this out to the absolute maximum before they brought it to you to tell you it's so amazing. And one thing I always find with like Instagram ads from influencers, they never say to you, oh, it seems okay. Oh, I'm going to try it out for a little bit, see if it gets better. It's always in their ads that this is 100% amazing and it's just doing so well. So they leave no room for, well, it might not work here or it might not work there. They tell you that it's going to 100% work and this is 100%. And I think that's the downfall, especially if we know that they are not doing the right kind of due diligence. So for me, the onus mostly sits with the influencer, but also whoever's offering the services or the product.
I think for myself, I always look inwards before I look at anybody else. So if something goes wrong, I would say that it's my fault before I attribute blame to anybody else. So when you have like a product or service offered by someone where we're not really sure about it. Look, the way I remember it is always just like in school. Like if I did something wrong, then I went home and then I said, oh, you know, so-and-so told me to do it. I didn't mean to do it or something. My mum would say, if that person told you to jump off a bridge, would you jump off the bridge? Right? So you can look at it like, look, there are influencers and they're influencers for a reason, right? They've garnered the following. People potentially trust what they say and their opinion on things, but I think we have to look within ourselves to say that, you know, is this something that we are really going to trust? We have to do our own due diligence and all these things. I think it's very easy just to pass the buck and say that, you know, it's their fault. I was led down the wrong or a stray path.
Do you know what, you guys, I don't know if I can add much more to that, because I definitely agree with you, Lusimba. I think it's down to the followers. Now, the Instagram or influencer relationship and their followers or fans is built on trust. And we want to believe that these people have integrity. But at the end of the day, this is the way they make a living. And I think we've seen very clearly that some influencers just don't have any morals or ethics when it comes to that, but we're asking them to. And I don't think it's unreasonable, because a lot of them are selling lifestyle things. It's not just macaroni cheese that they're selling. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to make a massive difference to your life. If you didn't like it, you probably spend a couple of pounds. But Kim Kardashian was selling, was it weight loss lollies? People are selling slim tea, which is basically laxatives. Like, people are selling things that are really going to alter the makeup of your body. So I would want them to have integrity, but I think a lot of them just don't. So I think it really has to come down to the followers, and especially for the people who went and got the Brazilian butt lift based on the influencer. It's the number one, like, most dangerous surgery that is out there. They're saying the risk of death or complications is highest with this surgery. It's just not something, any surgery is not something that you should be getting because you saw someone who you don't really know recommending it. But I agree also with Anissa in that there's a lot of regulation that companies need to be doing to make sure that their products are up to scratch. But again, when money's involved, I don't think they're always willing to do that.
When you say they need to be, why do they need to be, do you think?
Do you know what? I guess for me, it's really probably just down to ethically. If I'm being, and I guess that's a good point, listen, because they don't really have to. But for me, ethically, why would you want to promote your services when you know they're not the best? Why would you want to sell slim tea, which is a laxative and that can mess up your digestive system? Like, I don't understand why someone would ethically sell something that they know is of no benefit, and not even any benefit, because Haribo's of no benefit. But the point is, these things are actually detrimental to people. And even in the surgery, there was that video on the BBC where they were saying that the clinic is known to have caused serious issue, but their website doesn't list it whatsoever. Like, for me, I'm just like, that's immoral. But I guess not everyone kind of has that code of conduct that they subscribe to.
I guess the only reason why I asked that question is I kind of feel that, like, I believe in what you're saying. I couldn't agree more. I think that we're in an interesting time where you have, like, the internet, you have the podcast, you have shows like this where things are recorded, right? So if you make decisions that are immoral or don't really help people for the long term, chances are it's not going to help your cause or your brand. And I think brand is another fancy word for reputation. It's not going to help your reputation down the line. But with that said, though, I think it's hard to impose your own morals and your own values on other institutions or other enterprises or what have you, because they look. There's a lot of people out there, they're cowboys, or they just want to do a hit and run. They want to make a quick buck and get out. You know, some people look like, hey, I can make like 6 figures doing this affiliate scheme or selling this product. They can be in and out. Some people don't even see that in their whole life. And then then that opens up other moral questions. You know, we're living in a pandemic. If somebody needs X amount of money to cover, like, you know, hospital fees, depending where you are in the world, and they realize, hey, if I make this and if I sell this flat stomach tea, yeah, then potentially, you know, I can make this money, help my family and what have you. Or I play the moral game and it may not work for me. It then becomes a question of, hey, do I help my family? Or do I just, you know, sit this one out when, you know, I could have helped those in need around me?
Yeah, but I feel I hear what you're saying, Simba, but for me it's the whole, like, poor man steals the bread to feed the family thing, like, all over again, if that makes sense. But I think with influencers, for me, it's a little bit different, because I kind of see influencers just as, like, normal marketing agencies, companies, but just in one person, right? We're getting direct marketing to us with this particular influencer. And the whole idea with influencers is that their audience has to be slightly impressionable, because we need to be able to believe whatever it is that they are selling to us. And the reason why I think you can't impose morals, but for me there should be at least something, because specifically, if I'm talking specifically about the people who were influenced to go and get plastic surgery, whether they were influenced or whether the influencer's suggestion was the final push they needed to make that decision, there is a little bit of either vulnerability there, or maybe they weren't there was a little bit of vulnerability there. And I think whenever somebody's vulnerable or something, it's kind of easy to take advantage or market something to them or sell into a dream that they want. And so that's why I think you have to have a bit of responsibility, because I know people are saying sorry now, which is fair, you say sorry, but we're hearing of so many people that are like losing their lives and things like that. And I think in particular, not to focus on Renee's case, but she was having health complications a year ago, but she was still promoting it. And it's just like, for me, there at that point, it's enough for me to think that's like so immoral. How as a person would you want to do that? Not to judge her or say, you know, everyone has their reasons. She's probably trying to get her money and that's fair. But when it's causing such harm, like taking people's lives or affecting their day to day, I think we have to say to people, we need to be moral, because if we're just thinking so business, like we're no better than a lot of the corporations. Does that make sense?
I think it definitely makes sense, but I guess it's like, I agree with you, Anissa, but I hear what Lucinda's saying is that some people just don't have a moral compass, because I personally don't think these flat tummy tea people are trying to feed their family who are living in marginalised and vulnerable groups overseas. I don't think that. I don't, but I do hear your point in that I think some of these people are just kind of like, they don't actually care. They're kind of like, if some people like, if you're stupid enough to take it, if you're not going to read the package, like we've listed it, that's down to you. Like, we've been as fair as we can be. And I think that's why I think there needs to be a lot of regulation going on behind the scenes, because the fact that you can sell a laxative and call it a tea, the fact that you can sell weight loss lollies that are actually probably going to help you be more predisposed to getting an eating disorder, it's not just the influencers, it's the companies that are allowing these things to be regulated and go out there. And I don't know if you can regulate as many places as you need to, because social media now does have regulations. And to be fair, Renee was breaking them. Like, one of the marketing regulations is that you cannot pose as a customer when you know that you're getting paid to do it. But they're saying the issue is that regulations are never really followed up on when they see someone breaking it. There's too many influencers, there's too much going on, they're not going to go after everybody. And there needs to be a better system in place, because as much as the three of us might be like, I would investigate, I would research. Like you're saying, Anissa, there's some people who are vulnerable and are just not going to do it, and they need to be protected as well.
Do you think Instagram and like Twitter and wherever these social media platforms are, do you think they need to step in a bit more? And I'm saying that because, like, me as just a person, of course, at this point, I know this flat tummy tea does not work. However, these people are still selling flat tummy tea, and they've been selling flat tummy tea for years. And it's just like, for me, don't we all know it's a con? How are people still buying this, and how are people still paying for this? I would think at this point, Instagram would be like, you know what, like, we need to put a pin in it. But I don't know if they can do things. But for me, it'd be like, I think the platforms maybe need to step in a little bit more.
I think that, I think it's I don't think they can police it. You know, I don't even think they have the resources to be able to police something as vast as that. Because you have to think, I don't know how many influencers there are out there, but it wouldn't like surprise me if it's like in the hundreds of thousands, you know, because they got the influencers around like the world, all promoting different products in different languages and what have you. And then you got to, you know, really, you know, stay or investigate each and every product to make sure that it's not working. So for whether it's teeth whiteners, or like you say, the flat stomach
tummy tea.
Tummy
Flat
teas.
tummy tea.
Flat tummy tea.
if it's one of those, like, to go, what are they gonna buy every product? And you know, so they do you know, some things with regards to like what you can and can't market against. You know, whenever it's doing, like, for example, like Facebook, there's things that you can and cannot advertise against when it's to do with like making claims about products and what have you. So they do some policing, I guess, through algorithms. But I think the whole job or task of it is just way too vast for them to even remotely attempt.
And I don't even know if it should be their job as well, to be honest, because I think we're seeing this increasingly. What we saw happened with Donald Trump and Twitter. People like, it's Silicon Valley's job. I'm just like, is it? Is it Silicon Valley's job to make sure that this product that they have made, the social media platform, Instagram, that no one is misusing it? I'm like, there needs to be a line of like, people have to be responsible for themselves, and they can police only so much, but being responsible for the millions of people that they use their services, I don't think that's fair, and I don't think it's realistic.
But can I say very sneakily, I think Instagram are trying to do something very sneaky about advertising and influencers. This whole like shop feature on Instagram and being able to buy in this specific section, for me, has a bigger, sneakier purpose. But we'll pin that until I feel further revelation comes out.
Do you know what, Anissa? I rebuke that in the name of Jesus, because when I see that, I'm like, I'm not buying nothing on here. You lot, it's not only you want to sell me ads, you now want me to shop directly. Nope, I'm not doing
Neither will
it.
I, Sophie, but
I'm
I
not
think they've got
doing
a
it.
bigger plan. Because why would you make this a shopping fee? Anyway, let's not.
So I wanted to talk about something else to do with social media, and it's Instagram user @LynMyTalks, who recently posted a snippet from a conversation from popular new app Clubhouse, where participants were discussing the expectations that some women have about the amount of money men should spend on them when dating. Now, user Eugene Ayesi said that he knows women who are having £10,000 allowances every single month, and they're using this as a benchmark for what their future men should spend on them. He also says he doesn't want women to place value on how much men spend on them. I want to know, guys, should men stop spending significant amounts of money on women? And do you use what your partner has spent on you in the past for what future partner should spend on you? And should women accept or expect an allowance from a man?
There's a lot to unpack there. When I
There sure is.
when
LOL.
I hear this question, what I find very interesting about it is me personally, you know, one man's point of view here. I think it really depends on like where you live in the world, right? Because I think depending on where you live on the world, where you live in the world, it takes the type of culture you're in, and that really will set up the expectations of your partner. So, for example, I think like in the UK, there's a very it's quite, I think, well known that things are like 50-50, you know. If we move perhaps towards like America or South America or even like parts of Africa, there is like a high expectation among some women, like I'm not gonna, you know, typecast here, among some women for the guy to be the breadwinner, or him to be prepared to, let's say, cough up quite a bit, whether that's for an allowance or car, house, what have you. So I think it really depends. And you know what I found the most interesting example about this, like culturally, is the time that I spent in Ghana. So here, like when you have like a birthday party, for example, right? The person having the party will, you know, call you out, say, hey, you're coming to this party, everybody come. We all get together, and when the bill comes, let's say we went to a restaurant or something, everybody chips in for the bill, or what have you. Or even the birthday person may chip in. But 9 times out of 10, any party I go to, obviously I try not to let the birthday person pay. However, like in Ghana, when my time out there, if someone's throwing a party, they throw the party. Everybody comes to enjoy it, right? And it's just that proud, like, I got this, I can take care of this, come and enjoy with me. And I think that also coupled with, I don't think there's anything wrong with women having that expectation in understanding that's that particular woman's love language. Well, let's say not love language, what you find or a woman finds attractive in a guy. And I think that the guys, unfortunately, just perhaps need to find, if, you know, 10 grand is outside their budget, women that may appeal to them that have lower perhaps financial demands on them. But I think that, let's say you had 10 grand from a guy a month as a salary, not a salary, as an allowance or what have you. If you use that as a benchmark for future guys, I think that's highly dependent on your social circles or the potential men that you have access to. And the reason why I say that is that I can see like a problem, and this also revolves for men as well, is that if you say to yourself you want a certain caliber or a certain man or woman who could do XYZ for you, but you're not in a social setting to meet those kind of people in the future, you can find yourself in like a dead-end rut where you meet new partners and you're always assessing them against particular benchmarks, but they never meet that caliber, and then you just find yourself in a downward spiral because of you're always trying to match that previous person. And I just think that can be a bit dangerous or even toxic.
I got too much to say, but I'm going to let Nisa come in because I got too much to say. I got too much to say.
Do you know what? I think Lucinda brought up a very interesting perspective about culture, because that's how, when I first heard it, that's kind of like how I thought about it. It depends on where I am in the world. If I'm thinking about, should men spend significantly on the day? I think it depends on where I am in the world, but I also think it depends on the person. I would say to people, just do what makes you happy. If a man spending that much money, balling out on a first date or whatever, is what he wants to do and makes him happy, then that's absolutely fine. But if he doesn't, then he doesn't. The thing I don't agree with, though, is, not to you, December, but I'm just asking from the question, is that I don't think it's fair to ever assess anybody against previous partners, whether that's in finances or the job they have or the lifestyle they live, blah, 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 because obviously you're not with that person. But I do understand if you've been introduced to a certain lifestyle that you now realize that I really, really like. And so you want to keep maintaining that lifestyle. So you only want to be attracted or find the people that can help that. So I understand that. But I don't think if you met a good guy, for example, and he couldn't give you 10 bags for you to be like, all right, like, bye, I'll see you later. I think it has to kind of come with push and pull. Do I think women should expect or accept an allowance? I feel like expect is a strong word, but I do feel like accept, absolutely yes. I think anybody wants free money. So I would tell anyone, if you could get free money, take it. Absolutely take it. And if your love language, because I know Lucinda talked about love language, we said maybe not. No, absolutely, Lucinda. If someone's love language is giving, then I don't want to reject that. I want to receive, so I will take it. And so I'm 100% for, if there's anybody out there who would like to give me an allowance, but that I have to do nothing for, then I am 100% willing to accept it.
Anissa, you were my spirit animal. I just want to say that. I want to be you when I grow up, Anissa. I'm going to be very honest.
Why?
But in relation to what Lucinda said, because I got to, like, something that Lucinda said, sorry, let me start again. Something that Lucinda said, which was kind of like they call a Freudian slip, like he didn't mean to say it, but I think it was actually very true, was that, when these women are getting a £10,000 a month salary, it's a salary. Let's be very clear. Let's be very clear. Like, that money comes with an expectation. And the sort of woman that is going to expect you to spend £10,000 a month as an allowance for them, tax-free, it's not even getting taxed, you're getting the full amount. Like, there's a sort of, like you said, there's a certain sort of caliber of woman. There is sort of echelon that you are trying to go after, and you know, and she knows that she expects a certain level of care and treatment, and that it's going to cost you money. Now, if you were the sort of man that's willing to pay that, you are going to expect her to stay in that sort of lifestyle that you're providing for. So if she's someone who is always having her hair done, always having her nails done, her body's looking real tight, she's got abs, you are not spending £10,000 a month and expecting that to slip. You're going to assume that her hair is going to stay looking fresh, her clothes are going to start looking fresh. Like, this man is paying for some sort of service. And I'm not talking about sexually, but it comes with an expectation. So I think we need to be very clear about that. If men are saying, we don't want women to put value on these things, then there's a certain level of woman you can't go for. You can't go for Laurie Harvey. She dates Future. She dates Trey Songz. She's dating Michael B. Jordan. She knows what she wants. Yes. She knows what she expects. And she knows there's only a certain amount of men that are going to give it to her. So I feel like men, go for what you want to go for. Don't complain for what you got to pay to get that.
Yeah, but salary feels like a strong word, Sophie. I don't feel like I agree with the salary thing.
I don't think it's I don't think we call it a salary, but I think when they're paying that, like, they're expecting something in return.
But
they're
aren't people always expecting things in relationship?
Yeah, they are. But money comes with an expectation.
With or without an allowance, wouldn't there still be the same expectations? I'm just saying, with or without the allowance, wouldn't there be the same expectations?
I think, listen, you're going to have to come on this, but I think a woman who's getting a 10K allowance, like, I don't think that's a woman who's going to accept her next boyfriend to be any sort of man. She's going to probably try and stay in those circles. So for me, I'm like, if she's trying to stay in those circles, then for her, that's what it's going to take. You either choose you want to pay it or you don't. And if you're not going to, she's going to move on.
Yeah, look, I think definitely, like, a woman that is receiving 10K as a salary, as an allowance, whichever one you want to call it, like, I think that the next person, like, let's say if he's like, babe, I can give you like £100 a month. Like, she's gonna really scoff at that, you know, and she's definitely gonna want to stay within her circles. The thing, so cool. I think there's two like things to think about this. The first thing is that similar to, like, you know, when you get a great job, right, and they offer you benefits, it's like, okay, cool, you can get how many holidays a year, you can take time off whenever you want. Here's a car, here's like a phone, here's a laptop or what have you. When it comes time to leave the job or the relationship, so to speak, it becomes very hard because of, look, these may be the things that you love your partner for, but it becomes hard to relieve that relationship because now, like you mentioned, this is a part of your lifestyle. And the flip side of that, though, is that some men, you know, some out there, that is their, what you call tool, tactic, or maybe a better word is like leverage, you know, and it's just like, is that really what you as a woman want to get roped in? And the reason why I say that point first is that me personally, right, if I'm going to be spending, I don't have 10 grand, just before anybody asks, I don't have 10 grand to be given a woman every month. But if I did, I would like to know that what I give her, I don't necessarily want to receive it back, but I just like to know that I'm giving to a woman in a position that can do for herself as much as I want to do for her. Like, so she's as strong on her own 2 feet as much as I am.
Listen, but can we flip it on its head? Would you accept a £10,000 allowance a month from a woman?
No. Good question.
Why?
Hell no.
Why?
Because the woman will not respect me.
So, are you saying that men don't respect women who they give a £10,000 allowance to?
No. I'm saying that a woman would not respect a man if
No.
No.
I feel like we're touching the line of like sexism here, Lasimba.
No, but I think Lasimba's talking individually, but I don't understand as an individual why it would be a sign of not respecting you. If somebody wanted to give you money, Lasimba.
Not because I think there's different dynamics involved. I think there's different dynamics between like how the man sees a woman versus how the woman sees the man. So I just feel that in a situation where the guy, it's like this. It's like moving in. This is just my personal opinion, right? Moving into a woman's house and not being able to have your own. I just feel that potentially there could be a setup there for you to. For the woman to look down on you.
But you know what? Some people are givers, Lasimba. If I had 10 grand and I felt like I wanted to give, I would give.
I'm going to be honest.
I know because I don't respect him because I love him. But sorry, go, Sophie, go.
I'm going to be honest. Like, I wouldn't accept a £10,000 allowance from a guy. Like, cause I think there are certain women, like I said, I think there's certain women who are going to expect that and they're living a certain sort of life. That's not really the way I've been raised. Like, my dad raised me very much like you need to buy your own thing for yourself. So for me, I wouldn't want to have a £10,000 allowance from a man, especially one I wasn't married to, because I'm just like, what expectation comes with that? And I don't want to get so reliant on you. Like Lasimba was saying, that if that gets pulled away, I can't fend for myself. Like, anything that you want to buy for me or give to me in a relationship, I want that to be a bonus or in addition to what it is that I'm already bringing in. I get that. But I think in terms of what you were saying, Lasimba, I feel like we're probably going to talk about some things later in the show that's probably going to make this much more relevant. But I think that there has to be give and take. Like, are you saying that?
He shook his head. Sorry.
Because I feel like a man moving into a woman's home that she already owns, like, I'm really surprised at you saying that, because I feel like you don't think that it can become their place together. Would you say it's better for her to probably sell up and then for the two of them to put money together to get somewhere brand new? Because I feel like if the woman has a better setup, and like, why would it not be our house now?
So, okay, cool. So before I guess I continue, one thing I should really say is that, look, I understand there's millions of people out there. Everybody's relationship's different. And what works for you may not work for me. And I don't want to discount anybody who's found happiness, because happiness is so hard to find. So if you have found happiness in a dynamic that, you know, is similar to how you're describing, you do you. Do you know what I mean?
Dr. Phil.
There you go, right? I can only go from my, I guess, my few touch points in life, my few experiences, and those closest around me. And I kind of, this is, look, again, just one man's point of view, right? I kind of feel that, like, as the guy, as the partner in a relationship, right? In order to be like the woman's alpha male, or in order to be like the respected by the woman, you have to be able to show that you can care for her. And I don't feel like you can do that, like, when, if you're in a house together, right, and it's her house, and then you have an argument, and then she's like, okay, so where are you gonna sleep tonight? It's like, what, like, where is the dynamic in that you're just not gonna respect him at all, you know? And also as well, if he goes and he has to sleep on the couch, or it's just like, I just don't feel that it's a dynamic where you can really respect a guy and see him as your provider. So wait, let me throw this question back at you ladies, right? If you had a guy, right, and he was a house husband, right, you know, you're bringing in home all the bread, and he was just sitting at home, would you respect him?
I would probably say sitting at home doing what? Sitting at home doing what? That for me is the big question. Like, is he sitting at home looking after the children? Because that's how I personally think of like a house husband. He's looking after the kids, looking after the home, and maybe I'm probably earning a bit more. If you're saying that, cool with that. If you're saying house husband as in he's sitting at home and doesn't want to find anything because he knows I'm earning $500,000 a year, and he's just like, do the work, babe, then no, I'm not here for that.
So even that answer is crucial, right? Because of what I was going to answer. Okay, cool. What I was going to say, based on what you just said, is that he's literally sitting at home just looking nice, getting ready for you, right? So he's like, all the things that you were saying earlier about the woman, he's doing his gym, he's getting his abs ready, maybe even cook, what have you. That's it. No kids, nothing else involved. But what you just said, which was crucial, it made me think about the guy's potential, right? And his potential to do something, whether it's go out there, get a career, do something with his life. But that all leads to eventually him becoming like an alpha, or becoming like a strong man. Him and himself just being as he is forever, like just being a house husband, I just don't think it would work. He has to be striving for something.
Okay, I think it's, the thing is about the women sitting at home and sitting pretty, I think it's much more socially acceptable. If we're talking about, that's what I'm probably thinking about. And I guess I think it's more socially acceptable, because I think a lot of men that we see in powerful positions in the world, they're not necessarily going after women who are matching them probably in ambition and career. They usually find a woman, from what we see, who is probably a very nice person, but is someone who is very attractive. A lot of times when they're older, they're younger women who are considerably younger. They're going for something that usually on an aesthetic, like it's more socially acceptable for a woman to be an arm piece or eye candy than it is for a man. So I don't think I would date a man who just wanted to sit and look pretty. Some men might not want to date a woman that wants to sit and look pretty, but I think there are a lot of men who want to, and they do.
I just paused because I'm just thinking that, okay, cool. I think that when you say like socially acceptable, my mind goes to like socially acceptable for who? And the only reason why I think that is I think that, and I could be wrong, you can tell me different. I think that guys on an initial attraction may be attracted to, you know, a woman's looks, then maybe laid with a personality, and then so on and so forth. I think a woman is a lot more capable of looking outside the box of other men's qualities. So whether it's his looks or his ambition or, you know, his money or like just different personality traits about what he can and can't do. And I just think that like what he can and can't do plays such a crucial role in that. Why it just makes me think that the way I do.
I hear you on the can and can't do thing. I'm not sure about everything, but I hear about the can and can't do. Listen, whether you guys want to accept it or not, me, Anissa, is accepting the 10K, please. I don't know if I have never had an allowance, and I can't say I don't like it until I've tried. So please try, and then I can say if I don't like. I will take it.
Fair enough, my love, fair enough.
Well, I honestly feel like we could be like debating about this for.
I want to talk about this more, but I don't think we got time.
we don't. You know, the stop clock has reached the end, unfortunately, on this topic. But don't worry, there's more. So we've reached the halfway point of the show. If you have liked what you've seen so far, don't forget to comment down below and subscribe if you want to see more content from us, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. So far we have been speaking about misleading Instagram influencers, and we've been speaking about spending money on your partner. So now, switching gears a little bit, recent research by the UCL's Institute for Education has found that almost half of English schools have no Black or minority ethnic teachers. And even where there is diversity among staff, senior leadership teams are invariably white. Meanwhile, university student Joshua Chima, I hope I'm saying that right, recently tweeted, "Imagine achieving 3 A stars and 1 A at A level, studying law at Oxford, holding a scholarship worth £45,000 and co-founding a social enterprise at 18, just to be told you can't tutor because Black tutors are bad for business." Laughing my ass off, and we move on. What effect do you think the lack of representation in schools is having on highly melanated children? And is there any point in gaining a formal education if people still won't hire you because of the colour of your skin?
See, this is a tough one. I first want to say whoever said that to him is just a dum-dum. I just want to make that clear, for lack of better words. But what effect I think it has, it's a little bit tough because, you know, I know some kids, but I'm not really in the streets with the kids, so I can't say 100% what's directly affecting them. But when I'm speaking to the kids that I know, it's more about visibility, if that makes any sense. Just seeing people that look like them in places that are kind of more like everyday places. I don't know how to make that make sense, because sometimes they only may see people that look like them, maybe in a job that where people will want, I'm trying to explain, like they might see them as like celebrities, but seeing them in your everyday, like a teacher or a lawyer or a doctor, is just having that visibility to see themselves as something more than just an entertainer. Because I think sometimes as minorities, we're almost sold the dream that the only way we can get out is if we become an entertainer, etc., etc. So I think it's important to have representation in those places just for visibility and also just for understanding. Like for me, just speaking on my own personal life, when I was in school, we only had one Black teacher, but he came when I was like year 10. So I spent most of my secondary school life with white teachers. And I found there was more understanding, for example, because, you know, I grew up with Jamaican parents, and so they had really thick accents. So my pronunciations of words were sometimes like really off. So I may say something and it just was the complete wrong pronunciation. And when I tried to explain that to a teacher, they maybe weren't as either, like they made a joke about it, which could sometimes like make you feel a little bit odd, and it made me feel weird. And even things like what's it called? Meeting the parent-teacher thing, parents' evening, there you go. They couldn't understand my dad, some of them, and it was just the cultural thing because he had a thick accent. But with the Black teacher, unfortunately, yeah, I mean, he was Jamaican, so him and my dad got on like a house on fire. They could really have a conversation. My dad could understand where he was coming from, and that made my dad feel more involved in my schooling and be able to say a certain saying, etc., etc. So I think it's visibility, it's understanding. Do I think people should turn away from formal education? I would say no. Personally, I don't feel like you should let anybody stop you from going after things that you want. Obviously, it's much easier said than done if you are experiencing racism and, you know, you've got education because you thought you were going to get a certain job and then you tried to go in that industry and then racism is what stops you. But I feel like if you really want something, you shouldn't let anybody stop it. So for me, I don't think you should let that stop you from getting a formal education.
Yeah, I think ethnic minority children miss a lot by not having teachers who represent them. I'll talk about Black kids specifically because, you know, I was a Black kid. I was fortunate enough to go to a primary school that all the teachers were Black. There were no white teachers.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm surprised.
And I thought that was the norm until I hear other people's story and they're like, I never had a Black teacher until secondary school, and even then. So for us, it was just normal. And I think there's that level of care, and you know that they genuinely cared about your attainment and what it is that you were going to get. And it meant that whenever I went to another school, no one could ever tell me that I wasn't the stuff, that I wasn't intelligent. Like, by the time I went to a second primary school in year 5, I believed that I would be one of the best in the class, because I'm just like, well, like I was in my other school, and you know what? Like, I was always told to do my best, and my best was always good enough. So I think I had that level of care, that level of confidence within myself. And something that I would say it dramatically affects Black kids is the school to prison timeline. So like, a lot of ethnic minorities are in prison, and we're overrepresented, and they're saying this can be seen from schooling. They're saying children who are temporarily excluded are like 40-something% more likely to end up in prison. Kids who are permanently excluded are 60% plus more likely to end up in the prison system. And it's having a detrimental effect when Black Caribbean boys, which is statistically true, that they do worse at GCSEs than like any other group. And then when you have those low grades, or you don't finish, or you're excluded, it sets you on a path to completely not have access to the opportunities in life that you should. So I think it's having a detrimental effect, and not just on Black students, but just institutions in general, because we know that wherever there is diversity of opinions, of people, companies do better. So everybody is missing out, but especially the kids.
I kind of feel that we're in a unique time because of the internet. I kind of feel that, like, in my parents' era, like, having a formal education made a bigger difference. I kind of think that we'll reach a point in time where, like, because of the opportunities online and being able to reach anybody, even during this pandemic, work remotely, it's so unique that a formal education perhaps doesn't matter as much. But that depends on what you want to do. So if you want to be like a doctor, a dentist, or anything like that, then yeah, by all means, like, go get your formal education. But I kind of feel that so many jobs, like even like Elon Musk with like Tesla, he perhaps doesn't look at formal qualifications as much, and I think that there's a trend with more companies and businesses being open to not having that as a requirement. And then also I think of it as well, I think of we have to also be mindful of like who's doing the hiring, and I think that if we're trying to be hired by institutions where there's a lack of representation or a lack of opportunities for minorities, this might be wrong or right to say, are we therefore banging our heads against the wall trying to get into these institutions? And should we not, like, I don't want to say set up our own institutions for ourselves, but set up institutions that have an open table for everybody to get into, and perhaps we'll consider people on other merits outside of formal education.
I want to say though, like, when we talk about formal education, how far are we talking about in terms of education? Are we talking past secondary school?
So for me, okay, cool. So I think when I was just speaking, I was referring more to like degrees and what have you. But even if you look at like secondary school and like primary school or what have you, like for me, I don't see why like a lot of education that perhaps you may as a youngster without finding representation, why you can't necessarily find online. Even myself, like my closest peers and like internet influencers, if you like, that I look at online, most of them are Black or Black American, because of that we don't necessarily have that representation here in the UK. And I still learn generally, like literally like 95% of my learning is like through scouring the internet for content. And I just feel that we're moving into an era where if you don't have access to that, there's no reason why you can't acquire that knowledge from people if you look for it online.
Okay, I hear you. I get that in a degree sense, but honestly, I maybe not for primary school. That's just my personal preference. Because kids are a nightmare to get them to sit down by the computer. No offense to people that have children, but it's tough. Like just seeing the few people that I have trying to homeschool their kids online, it's just been a nightmare. But that's only because I think their kids have been obviously socialized in a school and then have to go from it. But I guess if you were a home learner, you wouldn't know the difference. Sorry to abbreviate. You wouldn't know the difference. But go. Sorry.
No, go on.
Well, I was going to say that in the last few years, I've actually been able to be privy to a lot of Black educators, and I actually had never really met a group. And there's a lot of like Black Teacher Network, and they've got like a Black Teacher Twitter, they call it, and things like that. And it's just like a network of Black teachers who are supporting each other, and I think it's because obviously they are like one of one in their schools, right? And the children of color, from what I've seen, because I follow a few of them on Twitter, and obviously I live with a Black teacher, what I get from them is that the kids are so happy to see somebody of color, and so the kids respond really well and typically perform better in their classes versus their white counterparts. I don't know, for whatever reason, I'm not trying to call the kids racist, but whatever it is, right? The kids just perform better. And what I found is that they usually find their experience quite lonely and just isolating, and that's why they've formed this kind of network. And I think what you were talking about, Lucinda, in regards to you can find education elsewhere, it could be things like that Black Teacher Network, if they decided to pull their education resources together and had like a online teaching network, then people could go and get their education there. Sorry. That was a thought I had.
No, please continue if you still had more.
No, that was that. That was the thought I had.
So, okay, cool. So let me ask you a question then. So with you being a twin, let's say you had, is it quintuplets is 4?
No, that's
Quins
quads
5.
are 4.
Quads are 4. What's quintuplets? 6?
Yeah.
5.
Okay, cool. Let's say you had quads. Let's say you had quads, right? And they go to a school. And in terms of like having, let's say, Black teachers, what have you, there's just none there. Like in that situation, and let's say for argument's sake, they're like 9 years old. What would you do?
Do you know what? I'm not going to lie to you. I think it depends. It's tough. It depends. Because for me, if there was enough balance in the children, then I don't know if I would, and the school I felt was good, I don't know if I would take them from the school. And I know that sounds crazy because for me, I didn't have lots of Black teachers in my life. I only had one Black teacher in my life. And I just never saw that as a thing to be concerned because, and I know, obviously this sounds crazy, but we are in England, and as people of colour, there's a lot of us here, we are the minority. So I don't expect to see a school full of Black teachers so I think kind of when I don't see one, I'm not particularly alarmed because I just think, okay, that's a little bit normal. And maybe I've been conditioned to think that way. I don't know.
Do you think, though, you could be, or your children potentially could be missing out in terms of a cultural advantage by not having access to teachers from those kind of backgrounds?
Absolutely. Like, remember when I said, like, with my, the Black teacher, I had my IT teacher, him just being able to even speak to my dad and everybody understand what my dad was saying, and dad could understand what he was saying, kind of helped like bridge that gap. And also obviously I hang out with a lot of Black teachers now. I understand that their students are getting a different kind of experience, almost like a bit of an elevated experience. So I know, why would I not want that for my children? I absolutely know. I know. But I don't know. I think I'd have to be reminded at the time. If I wouldn't be reminded, then I probably would forget. I hate to say that, but that's the truth.
And Sophie?
So for me, would I not put my children in a school where there were predominantly white teachers? No, that wouldn't be an issue for me. To be honest, for me, it's more so the caliber of the school. And then making sure that I'm supplementing what they're not getting in school at home. And I don't mean Black teaching because I'm not a teacher, but that confidence in themselves, that belief in them. Like I would probably have to be a lot more conscious knowing that they're probably not going to kind of get that sort of thing from school. And I think maybe something that happened with Akala when he wasn't getting that in school, when things were much more racist when he was growing up. He talks about in his book, his parents put him into like a Pan-African school on Saturdays where he was able to be around Black teachers and to get that experience and to get that self-belief in himself that he wasn't getting elsewhere. Now, if I thought my child wasn't getting that, then that's what I'd probably do, because I don't want to make it seem like only a Black teacher can give your child what they need, because it's not true. Like my niece is extremely intelligent, She's about to sit her GCSEs, and she has predominantly white teachers, and they really believe in her. When my sister goes to parents' evening, they're just like, we want her to do so well. We really back her. They're giving her all the support that she needs. So I think they can get that from elsewhere. I think one of the issues that I have is that the school system isn't set for all children. So I think something that Lucinda was saying, like, oh, in this day and age, you don't need formal education. And apparently only 30% of children, this is what someone told me, so don't quote me on this one, but apparently someone said 30% of children learn through the current systems that we have in school. So examinations, the modules, the coursework, they're saying the majority don't, but we keep pushing it and then we reward the children who are academic. And I think there's a problem with the way that we teach in general. I don't think we should do away with formal education. And I don't think we should stop getting formal education because it does open certain doors that you want to get through. So you have to play the game. But I think we need to really change the system so that creativity is rewarded in children and that's seen as a viable way to learn, a viable career. Because I think right now that's what a lot of kids are suffering from in schools.
Sorry, just listening to you, Sophie, sorry, not to jump in. I think I've changed my mind about what I'm saying about the black teachers. Listen, but the reason why, because it's not just about education. Something my sister's always telling me about, it's not just that black teachers could give you a better education. It's even things like behavior management, because she's always talking about like some of the kids that she has of color. Other teachers have come to her and, for example, have said, oh, this person's aggressive or they acted this way. And it's not been true at all. But if you were to listen to that particular teacher, they may pursue a route of this child being aggressive. Like, for example, I had a friend named Crystal. She was very quiet, actually. But when she did speak, she had some bass in her voice. Our French teacher then said that she had an anger problem and then brought her to the pastoral leaders and made her take some sort of anger management course. We were 14. The girl's never had an anger problem in her life. But some teachers who are not experienced dealing with minorities or maybe have a prejudice, their behavior management of children of color is very suspect. So that's why maybe I would want black teachers now. Sorry, I full looped. Go. Sorry.
That's a good point. It's a really good point.
Just to interestingly add to that, I don't know if, maybe it's not a positive thing. Maybe it is good or it's bad. I can't really decide. But when I hear that, it also makes me think because of we are here in England where we're a minority, it might not be what the child wants to go through, but that's potentially good training for what you can expect to go through in, let's say, the workplace. Because unfortunately we do face those challenges when we're in the minority, and learning how to deal with them is unfortunately something that we have to go through. But we've been on that topic for a while, so I'm going to segue into something a little bit different. In a recent interview, actress Reese Witherspoon was reminded of a dig her ex-husband Ryan Philippe once made about her earning more money than him when they were married. Is it still an issue when women earn more money than male partners? If so, why? Would you personally have an issue with earning more or less than your partner?
I think for some men it definitely is an issue, and I think for some men, no, and I'm talking about I think for some men it comes down to insecurity, if I'm being honest, and I'm talking about this specifically in reference to, I think it was a Guardian article where I saw they said, like, for some men, if their wife earns 40%, more than 40% of the household income, they suffer from stress and worry and anxiety about it. They said that's what they said. And for those men, I think it comes down to insecurity, for them to think that their woman earning more money means something that it doesn't. And placing, I think a lot of times in society, men are told to place a lot of value on what it is that they bring into the household. So that's a reflection of like manhood. And I don't think that it is. But I think it's very difficult. A lot of men that I've known, men that I've dated, like, they find it very difficult to separate that out from, like, being the provider from actually you're more than that. And I think if I dated a man who felt the only thing that he could bring to the relationship was money and more of it, then in my opinion, I feel like he would be lacking in other areas. Because if you think that that's the thing that makes you a man, majority, then are you going to pay attention to listening to me and supporting me and being kind and being receptive because you feel like, well, I'm doing the major thing that I need to? So I don't think it's all men, but I think for a lot of men, I think it comes down to insecurity within themselves of not knowing what actually makes them a man.
You see, I don't know if I think it's insecurity necessarily, but I do think for some men, particularly if you're thinking more of like alpha males, some alpha males, it's almost like threaded in their DNA about this idea of them being a provider. So if they feel as if they are not providing, there's almost like a part of them that is not being fulfilled, or they don't feel like they're playing themselves out to the best part. So I don't know if I think of it as insecurity as a whole, or maybe the way that they've been socialized, or the beliefs, or what they think makes a man, etc., etc. I personally wouldn't have a problem earning more than my partner, because my money is my money, so I'll always want to get to the bag whether you get to or not. But I'm also not in the business of minding men, though. Let's make that explicitly clear. I will say though, the men that I've been around, and not like romantic, but I'm just saying as like friends, it's always been a mixed bag. Like some of them prefer the idea of them making more money than their partners, and some of them haven't minded as much. And I think it depends more on your personality type versus just even solely being a man, because some women don't mind if they don't. I think there's some women out there who don't mind if they don't make as much as their man. I'd say probably majority of women don't mind if they don't make as much money as their partners. But I think there are some women in there who are, I guess I'd say more alpha females, who want to make a way of their own, who want to be successful, and who want to give a great contribution to their household. So it's important for them that they're just as good as they're bringing in just as much, or et cetera, et cetera. So I think it does come down more to a personality type versus what I'm thinking gender. Yep.
So I would say again, look, depends what makes you happy, right? Again, if you find happiness, you do you, right? But like for me, like I don't think I could personally be in a relationship where a woman earns more than me.
Really?
Do tell.
No,
Okay, all right.
there's literally no way. And I think, okay, cool. Perhaps leaning on something I mentioned earlier, I think it comes from like doing a bit of traveling, right? And just seeing how relationships potentially work in other cultures around the world. And it makes me think of a scenario like, okay, cool. Imagine like I'm with a woman, right? And this woman earns, call it 40% more than me, right? Let's say she gets made redundant, right? And she's used to a lifestyle, albeit like it's not necessarily a lifestyle I have supplied or contributed to. She's used to a particular lifestyle. Let's say for whatever reason, she can't replace that money for that job. Who, you know, is going to help her, or who is she most likely going to expect to, you know, help her through that time of need? And let's say this time of need lasts 6 months or lasts 5 years. Like, and if that guy can't help her, and not necessarily saying that he's going to take over, but just help her through that period, that's where I can see resentment creeping in. So I almost feel like you're setting yourself up, and that's why, you know, that's one of the many reasons why I would just, you know, steer clear.
I would want to say that, listen, but is that because you see yourself as someone who is going to be earning a considerable amount of money?
Yeah, well, okay, I think that contributes to it. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
cool.
because I think... Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
No, finish your point.
So all I was going to say is that I think that... This is interesting. It's going live seeing this. I think that I am going to make a considerable amount of money, and that would therefore lead me not to panic in my decision around who I should, you know, choose as a partner. I feel that as a result, I can potentially be a bit more patient, and therefore I don't have to necessarily rely on a partner to say, you know, I'm going to dig you out of a hole, or I'm going to, you know, support you, or, you know, I'm going to give you an allowance, so to speak. So I think that patience allows you to be a bit more clear-headed in the decisions you make.
Yeah. Do you know what? I definitely understand what you're saying, because in my experience, like men who earn a lot of money, or expect to. I dated a guy who expected to earn a lot of money in the future, and 100% he was going to do it. Like he was setting himself up for that. And I think for him, he wouldn't be able to get his head around the concept of a woman earning more, because in his mind, he was already going to be earning like 6 figures in the future. And I guess for me, I'm talking about maybe guys who aren't on that expecting to be at the higher end of the socio-economic scale. Like, because I think, what about if there's a guy who wants to work in youth work and like that's his passion, and then his wife is somebody who earns a lot more money. She's a principal at a university. She's like a vice chancellor, and she earns like $250,000. Like, is that then him not being an alpha male because he's found something that he's passionate about, but it doesn't earn a lot of money? And that's why for me, I think it's a very, it's a complex issue because like, I want a man I would love a man that earns big bucks, but I also really want a man who's operating in his passion. Like that for me is probably more important, that when he comes home, he's really happy about what he's doing and he feels fulfilled and he feels like he has purpose. And that might not necessarily mean that he's always going to be earning huge amounts of money. Does that mean then I should earn less just so he feels like I'm not trying to run him, or that I'm not putting more in the savings than he is?
So just sorry, Anissa, go on.
No, if you had to add to something.
You're the man on the show. You're going to get all our man. You're getting all our man questions today.
Go.
So just to add a layer to this is that perhaps this is me. Look, other dudes can feel differently out there. I'm not necessarily coming at this from the angle that, even for other guys, right, that they may feel inferior. Yeah, my general theory, if you like, is that over time, the woman will lose respect for the guy, which will start the rub, and then that creates the friction in the relationship. So not necessarily saying that, look, if a woman wants to buy me like a Lambo and, wants to buy me a house, one thing, I would love to receive those things, right? But at the same time, I understand there's a consequence in that. And part of the consequence in that is that over time, she may lose respect for me. Losing respect for me means that she no longer sees me as, that guy, her dude. Like, she just won't see me in that same light. And when she stops to see me in that same light, the relationship's done, basically. And that's why it's an issue.
Yeah, I get you, but I think it could also work in vice versa though, because I feel like sometimes when a man has held the purse strings for so long, he almost uses the money as control over a woman, like that kind of leverage. So I think anyone who's a top earner could be guilty of losing respect for that other partner or using it against them. And so that's why I think it's important to kind of have someone that you're balanced with, or someone you wouldn't want to lord it over. Personally, for me, yes, I wouldn't mind making more money than the person I'm with. However, that is not what I would choose for myself, if I'm being absolutely honest. I've said it all the time. If I was going to have a baby, he'd need to give me this, he'd need to give me that, he'd need to make a certain amount of money. Because in my mind, it's just like, in my vision of him taking care of me, he would need to have the ability to take care of me financially. That is a part that comes with it. And as I get older and, as I always say, move into the childbearing ages, there will be a point where I'll have to physically stop my career and I won't make as much as I was. And I need to know that I'm still going to be able to maintain the lifestyle that I'd been living before. So I need to make sure that you make a certain amount of money, not to just support you, but to support you, me, a baby, and the lavish lifestyle I still want to live. So you'd have to be making a certain amount for us to balance out. And I don't know if I disrespect someone over time, but I could imagine me resenting someone over time if I earned more. If that's me being honest, because I can get resentful over a few things. So I can tell you for free, I can imagine that I would get resentful. I'm just being honest. I'd be resentful.
I was going to say, like, I can give you like a real world scenario. Like, I always earned more than my husband. It wasn't that big a thing when we first started dating because I was living in London and he wasn't. So even though I earned more, he had much more disposable income because my cost of living was super, super high. So I was always broke because I had to pay for my big rent, my big bills, my big travel, all of this stuff. He never had that. When we got married, and I moved up to another city where he was living, and I got to keep my job, so I was still earning the bigger wage. Like, it's just never been an issue for us, because I think when we had like our marriage counseling, one of the big things that they talked about was money. And it was very much like, any money you see is our money. Like, that's how you need to think of it. Like, we're making decisions. So it doesn't matter who's earning more. Like, you decide maybe how you're going to spend it in terms of how much goes into savings, how much goes into this and that and whatever, but you see it as our money. And we really laid the framework for that when we were on our way to get married, so that there wouldn't be any of this kind of like, well, I earn more, so I get to make the decision on what we buy and this, that and the other. So, and to be honest, the sort of job that he does, he works as a pastor, and the way that their system is set up, everybody gets the same throughout your entire career. There is like no more money that he's going to earn, but he's doing something that he feels is a calling. So if anyone's ever going to earn any more money, it's going to be me. And I've never really had an issue with that, just because, again, I would say the way that my mum and dad raised me to always be so independent. I never, as much as I might have wanted to date a rich man, it was never, I was always like living for myself and providing for myself. But I guess the interesting thing is, now I got made redundant in November, and now I'm not earning a wage. But I'm really grateful that the framework that we set up, and we saved and everything, but the framework that we set up was that now if he's bringing in the only wage at the moment, it's very much like it's still our money. So if we need to make a big financial decision, we're making it again, because it's like, it's not my wage. Like, we're married, we're together, this is ours. So I guess I come of it from that. And do I respect him any less? Do I see myself respecting him any less? I would say financially, no. Like, it's not really the financial things that would have me respect him less, because I think the sort of man that he is, he has brought so many wonderful things into my life, and he's just made me treasure the things that are not financial, like that just cannot be bought, like being such a support to me and a rock to me through all the things. And I think that when an emphasis is put on money, I think we just downplay that a relationship needs so much more than that to function.
You know,
sorry, I didn't want to take all the time, listen, but go ahead.
So I think I think, as I previously mentioned, every relationship and situation is unique, and I think that, again, look, if you've found happiness, it's one of the hardest things to find. So definitely hold on to it with two hands. I guess one of the last comments I wanted to make is that for me, in having a woman as my partner and spending on her, I just wanted to really push on the point that I'd really love for her to be able to do that for herself. So just to build on what Anissa said, in terms of having a woman feel like she's almost at the mercy of the guy, if he's always doing the spending and she doesn't have it, by having a woman that has her own money to be able to do those things, I think it puts everybody on an even keel. In terms of what you were saying, Sophie, about sharing money and that kind of thing, I'm open to doing that kind of thing. Open to within reason.
That's why I started laughing, because I would
open to. I'm open to try Marmite. I'm open.
I'm open. This much open.
I'll take a chance.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I'm open to having those kinds of conversations. I definitely feel like I really want to share. Do you know what I mean? I really I enjoy spoiling people. I enjoy gifting. Christmas. We just had Christmas. Just seeing people open presents, that kind of stuff. I enjoy giving, so, we'll see. But sorry, I've talked too much.
I was going to say though, Lucinda, would you then, considering where you see yourself being in a few years, would you want your partner to be earning similar amounts to you, or if she earned considerably less, would that be a problem?
Considerably less is absolutely fine.
Okay, so
Fair.
It's just if it was the other way around that it's an issue.
Yeah, so this is my point of view has changed on this over time. Like, I think, like, before I traveled, I would have been more resolute in that, no, essentially she needs to be earning this amount, she needs to be this successful, she needs to be a bit more in her career path, that further along. But I think now I'm at a position where in my life where, like, look, if she's what you said, like a youth worker, or she's like an artist, she's a creative or anything like that, like I'm there for like her dream, her passion, personality, and obviously like the looks. I'm not blind, but I'm there for things more than the money, so to speak. And because I put so much emphasis on getting money, that's why I won't have to look for that in my partner.
Fair. I feel like we could talk about this literally forever, but
we need to add another hour on today's show for sure. Let's just take it.
We heard it here. We do need to add another hour, but I feel like we've just run out of all the time that we have today. But thank you so much for watching and listening to another episode of Ethnically Speaking. Let's keep the conversation going. Do you earn more than your partner, and what effect has this had on your relationship? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want even more from us, be sure to sign up to our email list where you can get access to Extra Ethnic, which is a special segment available exclusively for our email subscribers. There's a link to sign up in the description below. We want to take this opportunity to give a massive thank you to our very special guest, who was our first male guest, Lasimba. You can find him on Instagram and Twitter at LasimbaPink, where you can catch up with him on everything he's doing outside of United Melanin Group, and also find out when those tasty ice creams drop. For a summary of everything that we've spoken about today, head over to unitedmelaningroup.com/ES032. There's a link in the description for that below as well. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. We will see you the same time, same place next week. Stay safe, stay alert, wear your mask, wash your hands. Thank you so much for watching.